Alright, hello. We are going to look at some new features. Alright, no, we're not going to look at a new feature today. Sorry, I've made this video like twice already. There's some bugs in the last one. But this time we're going to go over a feature that did not work properly in the big demo that I initially made, which is about scenes in these projects in the Glitter application. Just a reminder, if you like what I'm doing, please consider like my, what's it called? Patreon account. That's right, Patreon account. Or maybe I might start one of those buy me a coffee thingies or whatever. But anyway, let's get into this. So this is the basic thing. We're going to make a new app. And we're going to add in some sprites. Dun, dun, dun. And we're going to take an aeroplane, and we'll take Nina, not Anna. And then we're going to go back. So we have them sitting, where are they? Default layout. Here, so just sitting in the stage like in Scratch. But in your typical game or application, you'll have multiple different sorts of, well, I'm going to call them scenes, but you might have different levels. You might have a title screen, you might have different screens asking you for different information. So the idea behind scenes is to make that kind of easy, and also as a way of structuring new features that don't require coding. So this is meant to be a tool to teach coding, but it's also meant to be a tool to be able to create tools for other people who don't have to code, but who want to be creative and make things. So we go to the scene list and we'll go new scene, and then we will click on the little triangle and go down, and now we have a scene. We're going to do one other thing first. We're going to go over to stage costumes, and we're going to add in a baseball field, and then we'll add in I should be pretty careful, because the last time I did this there were lots of little bugs that appeared, and so I should probably just click on the things that I know work, but these work. So we've got boardwalk and we've got baseball field, and we're going to go down to here. We're going to give our scene a name. The scene name doesn't really count for anything. It's just a helpful thing, just more a helpful description for the user. The scene variable does matter, so we will call this, I don't know, was it baseball or basketball we did? Baseball scene. We might change the variable name to baseball. So in the demo that I did, this variable stuff didn't work properly because I'd mucked up something at some point in the past. So we'll change that to baseball field. So this is my thing. So then I can add in some sprites. So we can just drag them in this way, or we can drag them in over there. I just discovered before I did this that the add button doesn't work. That's okay. I'll get it to work later on. I never use that functionality anyhow. You might notice it doesn't actually put it where I drag it. That's going to be a bit hard to get correct because it's using the system drag and drop, and so they won't be lined up the same. But the important thing about scenes is that you can add in multiples of things, and it will automatically, and they can look different. So that's the smaller linear, and this is the rotated one. Oh my gosh, that's the rotated one, and she can have a different frame. So that's her pop left, so she's patting her on the head, and then we have our little aeroplane over here, and now we can go down to our scene list and we can create a new scene, and then we can go down to scene 1, and then we can choose, so hold on, we'll change the start frame to boardwalk, and then we'll call that going for a walk, and we'll change the thing. I actually probably should call this walk with a like walk scene or something. I will say that my naming convention, so I use a lowercase letter here because I'm treating it like a variable because it says a variable, but I think in some cases it might be better to use an uppercase letter, uh, as I will show at a later point in another video. Anyway, why that is the case doesn't have to matter right now. We'll just stick with the lowercase. And I'm going to put the word scene on the end of this. All right. So now we've got two scenes. This scene has nothing, but we're going to have a bunch of aeroplanes. So one aeroplane there, and one aeroplane that is actually on the boardwalk. Put them there. And so they're all flying, except this aeroplane is going to be... one thing you can't do, I just realized, is you can't change the rotation style. So in Scratch, if you haven't actually used Scratch, it only has a couple of limited options. One is that the normal rotate like this. One is that you can't actually, the image doesn't change depending on the rotation of the image. The rotation, the heading of the image is used for moving around, but you can have it so it doesn't actually move, or you can have it so it flips left or right. That's very limited, and so there will be a feature that you can actually flip it backwards and forwards regardless of the animation, and flip it up and down as well. That's not there right now though, because I'm focused on the basics, mostly on the basics. So so we've got that, and so how do we use this? So we can go to our scripts in here, and we can go flags. This is my stage script, and I also realized, sorry, I'm gonna have a drink. I also realized that this editor doesn't have enough headings. It should have a heading for what you are editing. There's a problem in that, not a problem, but sometimes when you click on some things, you get a little thing in this box, and then you get a thing in this box. But when you change to other things, it only changes the thing in the main box, not in the medium box. And there is a reason for this, and I'm probably going to adjust things so that it makes more sense. But it can get it got a little confusing in the last video. Again, things to be fixed. But I'm just trying to show that I'm thinking about the user interface an awful lot. And it's very hard to get everything in a way that makes sense. So always open for suggestions, which I will probably ignore. Or go, oh yeah, okay, that's a good point. So now we've got this. We can go, I forgot what they're called. We've got baseball scene. I'm going to go change the... So I'm going to have that default and default. It's probably too late now. So I think I mentioned in the thing is that the code actually doesn't, the code that you write isn't code that is the final result. It's really, in a way, code to generate the code that's in the end. So it has to do the compile first, then generate, and then you have to flag. So if I go compile, you'll see that it hasn't actually done anything. It's compiled it, but it hasn't generated it. So you used to be able to click. There used to be a generate button. I don't know what happened to that. Oh no, I do know where the generate button. So you have to do it this way. So you have to go auto generate. This is the generate button here, and I've just realized that you can't actually click on it if you haven't clicked generate. See what I mean? This is the best thing to do, is to actually so we go auto flag, and it will just go and run it. So it's just basically clicking the flag. So now we've done that. So it's gone to the baseball scene, and that's how you basically use the basic simple scene mechanism. And so then everything will be set up the way you want. Now, there's a lot of, that doesn't really help you do a lot. So we'll quickly go through some of the things, the extra bits. So you don't have to do that. You can go here and then you choose going for a walk. And now when I compile it, we're on the boardwalk scene. I'm sorry, just hearing a sound. I think it's an aeroplane. So anyway, ironically, so for this. Now, the important thing here is, so this is one of these things that shows up when you click, but it doesn't change this. So this is the data. We'll come back for what this is actually talking about later on. But we'll go back to my scene list, and then we'll go airplane. And well, first off, we're going to go to the action. So the action script this is kind of like a a placeholder thing. This is not how you would really do it in the final results, but the action editor will be, in the end, it will be part of a library editor, which is how you will design your game making or your app making toolkit. So in here we're going to define actions. So I'm a little bit inspired by Construct 2, Construct 3. So we're going to have an action. First action will be spin. You have to kind of have this weird syntax where it's a bit like when you write blocks in Scratch itself. You actually can dump in random strings. Spin, and then we're going to go int angle or count. All right, and then we can go repeat, count, and turn left 10. So just a reminder, TL means turn left, but you can also write turn left. I am going to try, and wherever possible, all commands should have a simplified 2-letter version. So I'm sort of trying to take into account that the good thing about Scratch is that it's used by people who don't speak English as the first language. So I want to kind of make it easy, because there's no way that you're going to be able to write this in different languages like you can in Scratch, just because of the nature of being a text-based thing. But I want to make it at least, it's probably easier to learn 2 letters if you don't speak English than it is to learn the word turn left when you don't know what the word turn means and you don't know what the word left means, for example. So anyway, we've got that. So we've got our first Scratch, and we're going to add a first action, and then we're going to add in another action, which is go scene. Go to scene, and we have a new type of variable. So this language is relatively highly typed. Like where possible, I will try and make sure that you can just write var in this case. But I don't know if I'm going to have it that you can write this. Like maybe it depends. People really want me to try, but I'm quite keen on typing things, so it's hard for me to break the habit. I know people like dynamically typed languages. I don't. I don't mind implicitly typed languages so much. But there you go. But I have to cater for everybody. So scene. So next scene. So scene is actually a keyword, so you can't use a variable named scene. This is the way things are. Go next scene. Right, there we go. And we'll just print going to a new scene. Okay. And scene test 3. So if I occasionally see me do that, it's because I always go Control S by, force of habit. Like I just did then. All right. So now we've got that. Now we can quickly go down to our scene, and we're going to go to our baseball scene, and we're going to go to this one here, and we're going to add some actions to our plane first. So first thing, when the scene starts. So I had this thing, and I thought about it. I was like, well, it was just might as well have done it, but maybe it wasn't a smart thing to do. Is that you can actually have multiple activating events. So you could say when the scene starts or when it's clicked. And there are only 2 events at the moment. There's only these 2 things. You could have key pressed, and you could have like hovers over and other things. But I actually feel like you don't need them. You can get away with just making clever actions. But anyway, you could actually have both of these clicked, which doesn't make a lot of sense. But, well, it could. We'll do it here. So we're going to say update, and then we're going to add an action. And, oh, I forgot to. So one of these things is you have to compile it. It automatically compiles when you compile the whole thing, but they won't show up until you do the compile. We'll go spin, and we're going to spin 20. And we're going to click on here, and then we're going to go add event when clicked the add action, and we're going to go to the scene. And the layout's terrible in this, but we'll work on that one day. I like the coloring is terrible. Why do they look like? Why are the boxes like this? Oh, yeah. It would change. Cancel. And then we can choose the scene we want to go to. Eventually, you'll be able to drag and drop the scene onto this thing here, but you can't at the moment, so don't try. Then we're going to go to going for a walk. So you may notice actually that one of those things here is that this hasn't actually changed. Again, little UI things that I have to fix is that when I change scenes, it doesn't actually, this object is still referring to this airplane. Anyway, we've done that, so we've got two actions here. But before, maybe I shouldn't have done that. I wanted to go. Where does it go? She's got go scene. Somehow I managed to stuff that up. I think I should have done that a bit differently. We'll get rid of that one. Add event. Oh no, I didn't have to do that. No. I want to get rid of that one. So we'll delete that. So we're going to go to, oh, we do. I have to get rid of that one. Add action. Okay, spin 10. And then we can add another action. Go to scene. Go to boardwalk. Didn't ghost that out either. That's right. So far, the errors that I've discovered so far in this example have been less terrifying than the previous ones. So you can add multiple actions. So for every event, there can be multiple actions, but they are done in order. So it will do the spin, then it will do the thing. It doesn't do them at the same time. If you want to do them at the same time, you have to add the same event twice. So when clicked, spin, and when clicked, move or something, if you want them to happen at the same time. So anyway, now we've got that, and we're going to go down to here. Which aeroplane? This aeroplane here. We're going to add an event when clicked. Update. Go to scene. We've got to get back to our baseball scene, and that should be it. And so then we can compile and run. Why did we start in this scene? Hold on. Did I get this? This does not work again. Hold on. Going for. Oh, that's the right. Okay. Last time I did this part didn't work. It would keep going to the wrong scene, so I had to redo the whole video because it was just getting too many errors. So we're starting in the baseball scene. So I think she's the one. So that you saw that moved, but when I click on it, they'll also do the same thing. Then I can click on her, and she'll spin, and then we go to the next scene, and then we can click on this one, and we can go back to this scene. So in theory, like I did have to code that, but if you had the right library, you can add lots of little features, and then you can have some of the characters going backwards and forwards, and you can create actions to do a whole bunch of different things. So one other thing is at the moment you can't do this, but click on this plane here. Oh, it's gone and forgotten the scene, or it didn't show that up properly. Another bug. But it still works, so obviously I haven't updated this correctly. But anyway, at some point, you need to be able to, oh my gosh. So that one selected that. Yeah, so you can add, a thing that I didn't mention in the main video is that for a particular sprite, you can add variables in a non-textual way. So you could call it happy. Why did I say number? Number string integer. Oh, it's just a general number. Okay. So we can go happy with a capital letter, which it should be a lowercase letter. And that's a number, so that can be 10. Add, and it gives it a color, which may not be that useful, and it's way too big for the screen. So we can, and she can have a variable moo, which is a boolean, and the usual value. Doesn't have a nice drop down menu like it does if you did it the other way. So the idea of this, of course, is that later on you might have an action. So the plan is you might have an action stuff and var. I might call it var ref or var. I can't call it var because that's going to be used for something else. So variable x, and that will take a reference to a variable. So then you'll be able to drag and drop these things into your action for more complicated actions. But there's a whole bunch of extra things that I want to add into, which I think will make the whole framework much, much more powerful than it appears at the moment. So we'll see about that. But anyway, so that's that, and then you can compile it. Everything still works. So the last thing I wanted to talk about is, so this sounds like I made a new feature that's not in Scratch, but the beauty of this is that actually and I'm going to have to quickly, I'm going to move it off screen for a second because it's going to show up. Where did I put everything? Bear with me for a second while I don't reveal too much about my computer. Alright, so I'm saving it here. I'm going to call it a name. Scene test 2.sb2. I don't need to put that. It will add that on for me. Alright, so save. Alright, so we've done that. So now we can run our exporter. So export. And it's given no real export successful. Run exporters. There we go. And so now I've created my whatchamacallit. So what I will do is start up the original Scratch 2. So the last time I did this video as well, the export didn't work, and it's because I made a mistake in the exporter, and then I changed it, and I tried to be smart, and then I tested. Gosh, it takes a long time to. There we go. This is the Scratch 2 offline editor running in Windows emulation on Linux. So again, I'm going to pop off the screen and open. And where is it? Where'd you go? Dun, dun. Okay. So there's my Scratch stuff. I'm pretty sure I can show all this random stuff on the background. So I'm going to load in the Scratch 2 project, and it's loaded it in. Oh, the one thing. So even though in the default layout you can see them here, and you can make things invisible by turning that, and it makes them hide away. When you choose that the start scene is not the default layout, it just makes everything by default invisible. And the handy thing about that is you can make the initial background of here to be your your splash screen. So this is just the default objects, but they're all being invisible, and the background is the original background. So you could just say my game, and then you press on the flag, and voila, we're in our game. And then we can click. You can drag things around in Scratch and back here, and that works. I don't think there's any point showing, but yeah, anyway, I did this and I made some shortcuts, and then the code wouldn't work in the Scratch 2 editor, but it does actually load under Scratch 3. So Scratch 3 is more liberal at mistakes in the Scratch 2 source files than Scratch 2 is, which is an interesting thing that I learnt recently. So anyway, how does this actually all work? Well, we have to clean up this because it doesn't lay these out. So you can see it's gone through and it's created a ton of code and a bunch of events and a bunch of variables that does all the code for you. So you can see it's actually just created code from those actions. It's done all these other bits. This is set up stuff and initiate stuff. And you can see how it's actually creating all the objects. First it goes through and it sets up the position of something, it clones itself, sets it up, clones itself, and then the very last one is the actual original sprite. So in this case, this is setting up for the plane. So if I click on here, probably, I don't know which is the last one that I added in. It's probably that one. That one's the actual real sprite, and these two are clones. We can probably find out if we stop it. No, that's the original sprite there. So the nice thing is, yes, this still actually all works 100% fine under, well, I wouldn't say 100% fine. There will be some quirks, I'm sure, under Scratch, as well as the HTML output and the built-in editor tools. of here. So yeah, so I just thought I mentioned that. I don't think I'm sure there was some other feature. Oh yeah, there is one other thing. So a couple of things that need to be added. First off, why can't the default layout have actions added to them? Why can't you just add a sprite? Why can't a sprite just have an action for it? Which makes a lot of sense. And of course, if you're having a game like, you've got like a shoot 'em up game or something, and you've got like a spaceship, you don't want to have to go through every single scene and say, this is a spaceship, add spaceship action, add spaceship action. And there are things that I'm going to do so that you can say that the sprite acts like this in certain scenes. But also that should be just a default action. So it should always be like an aeroplane acts like an aeroplane object, or it has an aeroplane action, which it doesn't do at the moment. I have no idea, because I haven't tried it recently, whether or not the stage actions work. So they might work, might not. It's been a long time since I added those in. And also, if you want to do it directly, I think it is start, and though again I've forgotten the exact command, it's been a while. So baseball scene, print starting in baseball scene. Does this actually work? Like, I hope it does. It does, but it doesn't do what I thought it would do. Cannot invoke blah 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 blah. Alright, it used to work, but it does. There's apparently an error in this. So this is basically how it should work if you wanted to write specific code for a specific scene. But that's code going into the sprite object itself. So you can't write scripts for a particular object here, but you should be able to in the future. So this object should have its own particular scripts for that object while it's in that scene, not in any other case. But yeah, and so later on also I want to introduce the idea of not having sprites that are always in the scene, because like in Scratch you have to have a sprites in a scene, and it's based on the idea of cloning things to get more things later on, and I'll talk about this in the next video. There'll be like prefabs, so objects do not actually appear in the scene unless they're added into the scene. This is more for efficiency on the side of the other outputs or the internal VM, virtual machine, that's running your program. And also because I feel it's cleaner. So when I do the Commodore 64 stuff, it will be very much based from the beginning around scenes. So there won't be a default layout as such. There will only be scenes. And there won't be sprites that are always there. There'll be prefabs or descriptions. So I'm using the word prefab from like Unity 3D. So there'll be like a class or a description of an object. So an airplane is not itself an object that's in your scene. It is a description of an object, and you have to add it into a scene for it to be in the scene. And this will make more sense as I go along. But anyway, I just thought I'd talk about that for a bit. The next video is going to be about another extra language feature which ties into what I just talked about, and makes, I think, using Scratch a little bit easier. But anyway, I'll save that for next time. So thanks for watching, and bye. Oh yeah, and don't forget to, if you can, perhaps like support me on Patreon or something like that. Because I have no money, and this is getting quite hard to do, and I really like to focus on it while there's still time before AI takes away all coding jobs and nobody cares about doing any coding anymore. So again, thanks for watching. Bye.